It's Mike and Mary with
Business as usual.
And that has an asterisk.
Oh, yeah.
Because that means keep working, but do it safely.
And it's Monday, episode number 43.
Wait, 43? Is it really?
Holy cow. How many of these do we have to do? But you're enduring it with us, right? So that's pretty cool. But it's Monday, and we know some of you have been a little slow to adapt to this virtual real estate agent stuff. Some of you have been using .loop and mostly doing your business virtually anyway, but you haven't made that big shift yet to having every single thing that you need, start to finish, working with buyers and sellers. So that's our mission. Now, if you are an early adapter or an on-time adapter, then watch today and this week looking for those things that you could shore up and maybe improve the quality of in your virtual business.
I don't think it's that big a shift, I think it's more like a pivot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Floyd taught us how to dance. You remember that. It's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Don't reverse those steps now.
Yeah, and we've already taken our 2 steps back, so we're going to pivot and start going forward now. In fact, we're going to call this new dance the pandemic pivot.
You should come up with a song.
Okay. And that means we're pivoting to virtuality. As opposed to, remember Barbra Streisand, Robert Redford?
Yeah.
The way we were. Yes, we're not going to wait for things to go back the way they were.
Right.
Because they're never going to go back to the way they were.
To exactly the way they were.
They're going forward, and that means virtual.
Right.
That's what it means.
So scoop up the ideas this week, start applying them, and we're going to get new stuff every single day. You got to do the homework then afterward, all right? So today's subject is...
It's a new tool we have created for you, and it's called the Virtual Transaction Readiness Checklist.
That's really a lot of words.
It is a lot of words, but it's a lot to do because we want to take you back to those thrilling days of yesteryear. No, take you back to your first meeting with a buyer or a seller. You're beginning a new relationship. And before you send a pre-appointment package, before the appointment, here's what we're suggesting to you. In this day of virtual reality, that you do a readiness checklist with that prospect, that future client, to see what kind of level they're at in terms of being able to use the new technology to do a real estate transaction.
That way, you know in advance where the bumps in the road are going to be. And maybe you got to pave over them. Let's face it, somebody that doesn't have a computer, doesn't own one, you're going to be snail mailing and then arranging in a couple of days to go through that paperwork with them. But even if they're elderly, there's some workarounds that you might be able to try to help get them up to speed with virtuality. We were just talking to one of our coaching students last week whose parents are in their early 80s and absolutely love Zoom. They can see all the kids and grandkids. Now, it took a little while for them to catch on, and we had to be very patient teaching them how, right? So could it be that your buyers and sellers, or probably sellers, right, that are elderly or less inclined toward the computer stuff? What if we taught them how to do this? I think it's possible.
So we're going to go through this checklist pretty quick.
Yep.
And it's by no means complete. Add your own ideas to it, your own questions.
And contribute on Facebook when you do.
Don't you think the first thing you probably want to ask people is, what kind of phone do you have?
Right. Are you an Android or an Apple? And you got to know that if you're going to use Google Hangouts, right?
And what do you use your phone for? Some people use it for email. Some people use it for the internet. Some just for voicemail. Some for just a phone. Some to text. What do you use the phone for? What kind of level of sophistication are you, technologically speaking, with your phone?
Right.
And your computer, or tablet, or portal maybe.
So if you're talking phone, can you get text? Do you text? Can you receive photographs? Because I know someone, granted she has a flip phone.
Mom.
But
Kirk to Enterprise. Hello.
but she can't receive pictures. So that would be an important question to find out. What kind of phone do you have, and can you receive pictures? Documents.
Now, we're probably going to communicate via email, and from what I understand, if you don't have a Gmail account, you can't use Google Hangouts.
Right.
But how much does it cost to have a Gmail account?
Free.
Free is good.
Right in the budget.
But I think we're in this day and age, if you're going to do a buyer agency presentation or a listing presentation or any kind of offer presentation on one of the video conferencing platforms, that's one of the questions you want to ask your prospects. You know, how familiar are you with the use of whether it's Zoom or Google Hangouts or Microsoft Teams or any of those platforms?
You know, so many people are working from home and attending webinars. There's an awful lot of people that have had a learning.
Not another webinar.
They had a pretty big learning curve these last 30 days. So you're going to find that a lot of people are competent.
Sure. What kind of apps do you have on your computer and on your phone, especially apps for messaging? Who's your IT person? You know, those older folks who are resistant sometimes to technology, maybe they got somebody young living with them.
Right, sheltering together. Or maybe it's even a neighbor that could come over and they could leave their notebook on the front step, talk to them from 6 feet apart, clean the keyboard when it's done, but they've got someone they trust that can help them get into whatever platform you're using.
And you want to make sure they have an ISP, not necessarily the only one, internet service provider, but are they hooked up via Wi-Fi, or do they also have Ethernet capability, because that makes those video conferences a lot more stable.
And you might consider using a hard Ethernet cord, which we just had to do because we've done so many webinars. You know, we were chuckling because we've thrown so many of those cords out over the years. Who'd have thought that
we're
we'd
never
need them
gonna need
again?
this again.
Right.
Oh boy.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, to do a transaction, what are they going to need? They're going to need electronic access to their funds.
Right.
They're going to need the ability to send and receive documents, to do electronic signatures. That's all something you want to find out up front before you start the transaction.
Are you okay with that? Are you comfortable with that? We can do that. Or I can, attach, and they could print, or I could drop it off at your house. In some states, right now we got a couple states where you cannot even drop a package off at someone's house. So then we're talking snail mail.
That's not an optional pivot. That's a required pivot that you got to do. And no matter who you're initially meeting with, buyer or seller, virtually or face-to-face, you always want to talk about communication protocol and their preferred method of communicating.
Right.
Meaning, okay, which medium do you use? And what are your expectations in terms of how often you want to hear from me, how soon you'll respond when you do hear from me, how soon you want a response back? You want to lay all of that out up front. And that's part of this readiness checklist.
Now, in case you're thinking, I should have to watch this again and take more notes, we typed all of this up for you and added the questions so that you don't have to do that. So comment below. We'll make sure you get a copy of that, okay?
And stick with us for day 44 of the Pandemic Pivot.
See you tomorrow.
Business as usual with an asterisk.